Welcome to the Open Forum in the Villages, Florida. In this show, we talk to leaders of clubs and interesting folks who live here in the Villages to get perspectives of what is happening here in the Villages, Florida. We are a listener-supported podcast. There will be shout-outs for supporters in episodes.
This is Mike Roth. And listeners, I'm thrilled to share with you this podcast, which is my passion project for you. This podcast brings you knowledge, inspiration, and a lot of things that people need to know about the Villages and the people living here. Be sure to hit the follow button to get the newest episode each week. Creating this podcast is a labor of love, even though it demands more time I can easily spare. Now, here's where you come in. You can help us keep the podcast alive and thriving. How? By becoming a supporter. The easy way for you to support us is to visit our podcast webpage, openforuminthevillagesflorida.com, and click on the supporter button at the top of the page, or the purple supporter box. Even a small donation of $3 to $10 a month makes a big difference, and you can cancel your subscription at any time. Your support means the world to us. Stay curious, stay inspired, and keep those headphones on. I hope everyone enjoys today's show. This is Mike Roth on Open Forum in the Villages, Florida. I'm here today with Barbara Quick. Thanks for joining me, Barbara.
Thank you, Mike, for having me back.
Today we're going to talk about your career in cosmetic surgery. How many years ago did you start working in that field?
I started working in anesthesia in the 70s, the early 70s, so my career was 45 years, and I did all kinds of anesthesia. I worked at several hospitals, but the last 28 years of my career I spent doing just cosmetic surgery, working with plastic surgeons in their offices and operatories.
As a nurse anesthesia, what was the difference in your responsibilities as opposed to the regular doctor of anesthesiology?
A nurse anesthetist, we both do basically the same job, but we do it in different settings. A nurse anesthetist is an advanced practice nurse, which is a nurse practitioner that specializes in delivering anesthesia services. And we're fully licensed to provide anesthesia for a doctor, MD, DO, or certified dentist. We work independently, but in hospital settings, since the advent of so much outpatient surgery, the people in hospitals having surgery are generally much sicker than they used to be. So a team approach is used in hospitals. You work with an anesthesiologist who direct the anesthesia for a number of people. He might supervise 4 rooms of anesthesia. You come up with a working plan and you work together. People who are having surgery in an outpatient facility, they're generally what they call ASA 1 or 2, which means these are healthy people.
ASA?
The Society of Anesthesiologists describe there's a level of 1 being a healthy person with no problems, 5 being a patient who is near moribund, but may still require anesthesia from trauma or for whatever reason. ASA 1 and 2 are basically what's done in offices. So you're doing healthy people and you're doing a different kind of procedure. Over 50% of anesthesia is done by nurse anesthetists in this country, with over 80% in rural areas being done exclusively by nurse anesthesia. We're unsung heroes. Many people don't realize what a nurse anesthetist is, and that's one of my reasons I've been a very big promoter of nurse anesthesia. It was a wonderful career. I've worked independently in hospitals, clinics, offices, and the last 28 years of cosmetic surgery was a wonderful career.
What drew you to the idea of becoming almost an exclusive nurse anesthetist for cosmetic surgery?
I had worked for several years doing regular anesthesia. I was living in Indialantic near Melbourne, and I'm working at the hospital there. A friend and I decided we wanted to do something different. We became acquainted with a man in Miami doing anesthesia in a plastic surgeon's office. We were shocked and thought, why can't we do that here? We made a visit we were still working at homes in Melbourne, and we just decided to go to Orlando and talk to see if there was a need for our services. And there definitely was, because the kinds of surgery they were doing, they were very limited by doing just minimal sedation. We took that chance. We started a company and we started providing anesthesia, and eventually that worked up to over 30 plastic surgeons
Wow.
in Central Florida.
Now, as a independent contractor,
Right.
did you have to get your own insurance?
Absolutely. And at one time, the malpractice crisis was happening in
Mhm.
Florida. There was a time when the rates were extremely high. There's always been a lot of politics in medicine in Florida, but we always managed to make it work. And we brought good anesthesia, the same type you'd have in a hospital or an outpatient department, to physicians' offices. They were able to do procedures that before they would have to take people to the hospital or into the outpatient department. And cost is a big factor because cosmetic surgery generally is not covered by insurance. So they were looking for ways to keep the cost down. And this was a way that they were able to do better procedures in the office and safer. So
But is there any difference between cosmetic surgery and plastic surgery, or are we really talking about the same thing with two different names?
no, there's a difference. The difference really is in the practitioner. Plastic surgeon do cosmetic surgery and reconstructive surgery, which means someone that's been injured, someone has birth defects, whatever it may be, they are able and they are trained to do something different. Cosmetic surgeons sometimes now, an ENT physician will do cosmetic surgery and reconstructive surgery on the face and neck. But there are other surgeons who don't have specialty training. They will do what they call a fellowship, where you spend time with a cosmetic surgeon and learn specific cosmetic procedures. But they're not the same. A plastic surgeon has to be a surgeon first. He has to do a regular general surgery training first, then a specialty in plastic surgery. Cosmetic surgeons do not. So there's a little bit of a difference.
So, in looking for a surgeon to do cosmetic surgery, if I wanted to get the very best, I'd really have to find a plastic surgery specialist.
You would look for a board certified plastic surgeon.
Mhm.
Correct. They also have, would there be any kind of problem that ever developed or some kind of issue in healing, whatever they have, they're trained to have taken care of surgical patients of all kinds. But cosmetic surgeons, it would depend on the procedure you were having. If you were having a big tummy tuck or you're having a large breast reduction, a plastic surgeon would be your choice. It's easy to find out about a surgeon. There is a website that you can go to called the flhealthsource.gov, or you can just Google, how do I find out credentials about a surgeon? You can just Google it, and there will be multiple sites where you can go on and you can read, where was this person trained? What kind of credentials do they have? You can read reviews. If you're considering cosmetic surgery, I would definitely look at more than one surgeon. Many people, because a friend had surgery with a particular doctor, tend to just want to do the same thing. Oh, she looks great. That's true. And she was successful. She picked the right doctor for her. But when you're looking for someone, you need to look for the best doctor for you. And that may be someone different. I advise anyone that ever asks me to speak to a minimum of 2, preferably 3 different surgeons.
And this is for more than just getting the best price.
Absolute price should not enter into it. If you're tight with money, wait till you can have the doctor that you choose. You won't find a big variation in prices because doctors are competitive with one another. They know they have to be within the same range. I would not let price be what made my decision for me with a physician.
Bring up an interesting point. I might know how to evaluate a job someone did on painting my driveway or my neighbor's driveway. I can look at the materials, the thickness of the paint, how bright the color was, how good the design was. How do you pick a plastic surgeon for you?
You would go there and be very aware of the physician's staff because you're going to be dealing with that staff. Your surgeon's not always going to be available. You may call, you may have questions. When you go in, are they rude? Are they trying to rush you through? Do you feel uncomfortable with that staff? find another doctor. But you're going to be dealing with the staff. So the staff is very important. Look at the photos. You're going to be shown photos of before and after photos. If you're having breast surgery, don't bother looking at the others. You can glance at them, but really
Don't look at the
look.
nose jobs.
Well, you can just get a feel, but you want to know, and I can tell you from working with so many surgeons, different doctors excel at different things. You'll have a doctor that the nose surgery he does is spectacular, but you look at his breast surgery and, oh, I don't know. I'm not so sure about that. People excel at different things. Look at the doctor and look at his photos of before and after of what he has done. But the big thing is, how do you feel when you meet him? Does he make you feel confident? Does he make you feel that this is the person that really is hearing me? He's listening to what I want. He understands what I want. Not someone who's going to rush in, rush out, talk to my staff. Someone who really is listening to you is very important. And you will feel it. You'll feel a rapport. You'll feel, wow, I feel really good with him or her. I know they're going to do what I want, and I feel that they're there for me. That is what you want, and that's why I suggest more than one doctor. And that may have worked good for a friend, but that may not work for you. So that's why it's really important that you look at somebody for you.
Let's take a short break here and listen to an Alzheimer's tip from Dr. Craig Curtis.
So even if you removed 100% of the amyloid, that would not cure Alzheimer's. That is true in patients with symptoms. You can remove all the amyloid, yet the symptoms will continue to progress. So what we're doing now in these prevention studies is we're trying to see if removing amyloid prior to symptoms beginning, if removing all the amyloid out of your brain, whether or not that actually halts the progression into actual symptoms in Alzheimer's disease.
With over 20 years of experience studying brain health, Dr. Curtis's goal is to educate the Villages community on how to live a longer, healthier life. To learn more, visit his website, craigcurtismd.com, or call 352-500-5252 to attend a free seminar.
Thank you, Dr. Curtis. I'm back with Barbara Quick, and we're talking about cosmetic surgery. Is there ever a case in cosmetic surgery when you're shopping for a patient where you should doubt whether or not the doctor that you're talking about actually did the surgery on these people as opposed to another surgeon or a contractor?
That occurs in some places, and if you ever read your surgical consent, most of them say you are allowing this doctor and his assigns, which means maybe not. I would ask him point blank, are you the one doing my surgery? If not, who is the surgeon who's going to be doing this? I want to know the name of the surgeon who's doing that.
And you don't want to learn that name when you're in the prep room.
Most surgeons, I would say, most surgeons you meet, they are going to be the surgeon who does it. But there are practices, some of the larger practices, where maybe their associate or their partner or something else. You want to have your rapport with your surgeons, and you can ask them specifically.
Yeah, and you talked about the doctor's front office or back office.
The staff is very protective of their doctor, and I understand that. But at the same time, sometimes people take on too much. If you have a question for the doctor, you don't want to ask his staff. And I can tell you, most of the surgeons nowadays, once you have your surgery, the doctor will give you the day of surgery. They'll give it to your family member or whoever is with you. They will say, call me. If you have a question, don't call the office. Don't call an emergency number. Call me. Let me know what's going on, and hopefully we can resolve whatever it is on the phone. That's very common nowadays with doctors, and I think that's a really good idea.
If you don't have the direct cell phone number to you're probably dealing with the wrong surgeon.
Yeah,
especially
usually.
for a elective technique where you have your time to get the procedure done. It's not an emergency.
Most patients are very reluctant. If they're going to call the surgeon, they're only going to be calling about something that's really important, and that's what he wants.
In the field of cosmetic surgery or plastic surgery, we've had a lot of recent advances in surgery, robotic surgery, for instance. Are there any different options for consumers?
So much has changed around cosmetic surgery for such a long time. I have seen drastic changes in surgery in general. The improvement of types of lasers, types of equipment that's used, types of tools that are used have been able to make non-invasive or less invasive procedures much more common. It used to be a person who wanted a facelift, basically you had a choice of a traditional facelift, which 2 weeks downtime, and it was extreme. It was a difficult procedure, a long procedure. They now have many options. You can accomplish almost the same results, but in a much more minimal way with many options. They use fillers, they use Botox, they use different things that can make it a terrific result, but your downtime may be 3 days, 2 days, or a week. The best thing to do is to schedule a consultation. If you're concerned about something, schedule a consultation with at least 2, maybe 3 people. Go in and talk to them. You know exactly what you want. Go in and talk to them, see what they suggest. Some people will suggest different things. Some people will say, we can do this, we can do that. I recommend this. And then you are able to weigh your options and decide what would work for you.
Are any of the plastic surgeons that you were familiar with using robotic surgery yet?
For the kind of surgery, this is facial or on your breast or tummy tuck, liposuction. These are things that are right there.
I didn't know they were still doing liposuction.
Oh, yes. They used to do liposuction. Now there's different kinds of laser procedures you can combine with it. There's all sorts of things.
Is that sonobetal thing that I've ever
Oh,
seen
yes,
advertised?
absolutely.
Is that
That's a good
a
procedure.
liposuction thing?
Yes, and there's all different ways. They have an endermology. It's a type of procedure. Say someone is in very good shape, but no matter what they do, they can't get rid of this bit of fat on their thighs or this little bit of pooch in the belly, and they work hard at it. Those types of lesser invasive procedures that can be very specific for that work really well.
You talked about the facelift, which is minimally invasive and a quick recovery. Without getting too technical, can you tell our listeners how that's done?
It would depend. You would have to have an evaluation on many things. It would depend on your age, how much weight you have gained and lost through the years, how much turgor is left in your skin.
How much
For your
trigger?
Turgor.
Turk.
The ability of the skin to retract and tighten, this type of thing, and heal without it drooping.
Is that the same thing as elasticity?
Similar, yes, a similar type of thing. So it all depends on where you are in your own life. Some people can be 55 years old and they look terrific, and other people can be 55 and they look 70. So again, it just depends. You have to be evaluated, and you may not be able to have a minimally invasive. You may have to have a more invasive procedure. That doesn't mean you wouldn't get a good result. It just means you have to prepare for it differently. Talk to your surgeon. This is why the consultation with different surgeons is so important, because they all have different ideas. They approach problems differently. Having different ideas from different physicians might be what works best for you. And
Okay.
that's why it's important.
Lots of women have cosmetic surgery. Some people have become addicted to it. Is that true?
It is true.
I see a lot of the celebrities with what I
Right.
call fat lips.
Yes, some people, especially celebrities, have cosmetic surgery for a lot of reasons. Sometimes people do it for business reasons.
Mm-hmm.
They're in their 40s or 50s, and this includes men. They're competing in the job market with younger people. They need to look good. The big thing about cosmetic surgery is your own self-esteem. If when you look in the mirror, all you ever see is your ugly nose, and that's how it feels to you, then why should you live your life hating every time you look in the mirror? Someone that says, hey, look at my nose. I got a Greek nose. That's my family nose. I love it. They're perfectly happy. But when you feel that you look good, you're going to perform better. You're going to do better. You're going to feel confidence. And that's why people want cosmetic surgery. They just want to feel good about how they look.
Are there any special preparations someone should make for cosmetic surgery?
Yes, I think people tend to underestimate it. They say, oh, it's just cosmetic surgery. It's not a big deal. No. Any kind of surgery is a big deal, and you need to prepare. You need to have someone to take you to your procedure, to bring you home. We're not going to put someone that's had sedation or anesthesia in a cab with a strange driver. And you have to have someone to take care of you that night, to check for bleeding. You're going to be dozing. You're going to be asleep. If you live alone, you don't want everyone to know your business. You can hire a nurse. They have agencies where you can hire a nursing assistant someone who can be with you, who can drive you, bring you home, stay with you a day, 2 days, whatever you need. And you can do that all very privately on your own. But you do have to plan. I can remember having a patient once that came in, wanted a facelift, and she wanted it because her son was getting married in 3 weeks. No, you're not going to.
Too late, huh?
You're not too late. You have to prepare. If you're going to be going to Italy for 2 weeks, you don't have a tummy tuck 3 weeks before. And people sometimes just don't coordinate.
Let me throw a quick question at you.
Sure.
Because this comes up a lot. People do, what do they call it? A surgical vacation. Let's go down to Tijuana and I get a facelift. What do you think of that kind of thing?
I think it's very dangerous because people in Mexico or India or wherever it may be, their physicians, you don't know their training. You don't know their background. You don't know what the rules are for sterilization. You don't know anything about how they run their practice. There are places you can go where you hire an agency. Say you're a person living alone, you need to have a total hip replacement. You can't afford your copay. There's a place in India where you can go where they arrange the whole thing. That's different. That's done through an agency. And they're responsible and they're very informative. And that's something that works for some people. But people that are going to wherever, Mexico especially, where they're going because of cost, what you need to do is work harder, get another job, get a loan, and stay in the United States because you know what kind of quality. I've had patients in the past that have done that, and their results have been disastrous.
What can go wrong, and what do you do if you're unhappy with the results of a cosmetic surgery?
There a lot of things can go wrong, but they can go wrong very temporarily. Sometimes people expect I'm going to have this done in 2 days. I'm going to look beautiful. No, you're not. You're going to have swelling. You're going to have bruising. You're going to have a scar that maybe is reddened and enlarged. That's why you need confidence in your doctor. When your doctor says, no, this is going to be okay, give it a couple weeks. Sleep on a couple pillows. Let's get that swelling down. You need to relax. You need to not be doing so much. Listen to what your doctor says. And it's going to take longer than you think to get everything where it's going to be perfect. At the end of about a month, the swelling is gone. You start to see the results.
Now, I'm just going to talk about Hollywood individuals because some of them have become unrecognizable as to who they were before. And my favorite one to talk about is Joan Rivers. And I had the opportunity to meet her personally once in Las Vegas.
I saw her in Las Vegas.
Yeah, no, I met her at the registration desk at the Aladdin. And first I didn't recognize her because the blonde was so short and she was wearing jeans. And then I took another look and I said, "Are you Joan Rivers?" And she was very rude to me.
That was her shtick.
The problem that I see is she's had so much plastic surgery that she didn't really look like herself 20 years earlier.
Yes, that happens. And again, this is part of choosing your doctor. I know people who would come to my doctor. I worked with wonderful doctors throughout Central Florida. People would come in and they'd say, I want this done, I want that done. And they would say, no, I'm not going to do that because you've already had your eyes done 3 times. I can't take any more skin. You can't close your eyes. Somebody says, I want my lips bigger. They say, no, you'll look like a fish. And that is what a doctor does.
A good doctor.
A good doctor tells you the truth. And he says, no, I'm not going to do that. Something that maybe doesn't heal right, or after your breast surgery, one side's a little bit higher than the other. And he looks at it and he says, you're right, we're going to fix that. If you have something that truly is a problem and it requires more attention, that is all part of your surgery. Your doctor will take care of that and do what they call a revision. And they will revise that.
Are there any safeguards you can take so your cosmetic surgery doesn't turn out like Joan Rivers' last cosmetic surgery? I want to know how someone can pick a surgeon which is going to keep them safe.
That's what she did. She chose a doctor who was famous and well known. And what did he start his surgery out with? When he gets her in the room, she's sedated and he's up there taking selfies with her. That's a clue right there. Your doctor isn't serious here. And he was much too cavalier and made bad decisions. And actually, he lost his license after that procedure because it was blatantly
How
bad.
can I pick a doctor that's not going to be cavalier and
By-
over ambitious?
By doing what I said,
The
you
research.
going on and you do research. Also, you Google reviews of Dr. Kildare. And believe me, when people are unhappy with their surgery, they're going to get on there and they're going to talk about it. So you can pull up all the good and you can pull up the bad. You may find 25 or 30 excellent remarks about the surgeon. And then you find one, oh, the staff was rude and he was rude and maybe he had a bad day. I wouldn't put a lot of thought into that.
If there's only one bad one,
But
don't worry about it.
I had a problem. He wouldn't take care of me. He wouldn't return my calls. He didn't want to see me again because I had a problem. When you start seeing the same thing over and over, it's an alarm. I would be concerned.
Where does one leave a review for a doctor?
Oh, there's all kinds of places. There's a place usually right on their website. You can go to Yelp. You can go to any of those places.
So that's where I would
And
look.
if you ask for reviews, it'll come up.
So I put
yeah.
in the doctor's name and I want
Yeah,
reviews.
review Dr. Kildare. And you'll see lists of them under different sites. And you can pull that up.
I understand you're also an author and you've written a medical thriller.
Yes,
Tell
I
our
did.
audience a little bit about that, Barbara.
I really wanted to honor my career and talk about nurse anesthesia and let people know what a nurse anesthetist was. I met so many patients that had just amazing stories. And I always talked a lot to all my patients. I really enjoyed my patients a lot. And I thought, that's what I want to do. I want to talk about cosmetic surgery. I want people to know about what you can get and what you can do and things you shouldn't do. And I wanted that in a story form. So the name of the book is Surgeon on the Edge by Barbara Jean Quick. And all of my stories, all of my patient scenarios are 100% true. As bizarre as a couple of them are, they were true. My surgeon is not. My surgeon is
Fiction.
created.
Fiction.
And personalities are a couple of my doctors, the doctors' personalities. But he was created as a thriller on the rise and fall of this
How long ago was the book published?
year ago.
Okay.
It's on Amazon. It's in Kindle, softcover and hardcover.
So if someone wants to get in touch with you to ask a question about the book or plastic surgery, how do they do that?
They could email me.
And the address is?
Is bmquick@aol.com. bmquick@aol.com. Very easy. No, I think that we've covered everything. And I will say this. I want everyone to understand I do not do any physician recommendations. That is not my place to do that. And most of my surgeons are retired anyway, the ones that I worked with. But I just do not do that. I'll answer any kind of questions, a regular question, but I do not do any kind of recommendations.
So you were a medical cosmetic surgery anesthesiologist for 20, 30 years as a career. Did you ever have any plastic surgery yourself?
I had my eyes done 25 years ago. I could have had everything done. A facelift, a tummy tuck, a breast augmentation. I could have had it all.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have any of it. Oh, I did have a little bit of lipo done on my chin. That's it. And I was very happy with it. Having what they call a blepharoplasty, eye surgery, it's a terrific procedure. It takes 10 years off of your age just by having that. It's just an amazing, very forgiving, healing quickly surgery.
I have a friend who did an eye surgery.
Men are very difficult to do eye surgery on because the big problem. Think of people, remember pictures of Kenny Rogers? He's a perfect example. He has feminine eyes. You can't do a feminine eye on a man because he's going to look feminine. You have to find a surgeon. If I were a man and I was having a surgery done, I would ask him or her, how many men have you done this procedure? It doesn't matter how many women. How many men? Do you have photos of those men? It's a very tricky surgery to get a man to look really good, have what he needs, but not have the feminine eyes.
Thanks a lot for joining us, Barbara.
Thank you for having me.
Remember, our next episode will be released next Friday at 9 a.m. Should you want to become a major supporter of the show or have questions, please contact us at mike@rothvoice.com. This is a shout out for supporters, Tweet Coleman, Ed Williams, Dwayne Romick, Paul Sorgan, and Dr. Craig Curtis at K2 in the Villages. We will be hearing more from Dr. Curtis with short Alzheimer's tips each week. If you know someone who should be on the show, contact us at mike@rothvoice.com. The way our show grows is with your help. Text your friends about this show. If you enjoyed listening, or just tell your friends about the show. We thank everyone for listening. The content of the show is copyrighted by Roth Voice 2025, all rights reserved.